Hello, and welcome to the Roundup. It is Bertram Lansico, and I have a lot of new connections, so welcome to the Roundup. And if we haven't officially met, hello. Wow. So my journey and why we started these Roundups. I've been involved in revenue cycle recruiting and more on the staffing side, helping medical coding professionals and revenue cycle professionals get placed within jobs and opportunities. Close to 15 years ago, I worked for one of the largest staffing and recruiting firms within the space when I first started, and quickly within 6 months, I became one of their peak performers. I actually doubled the highest number of recruits within 1 calendar year from a senior or my mentor, one of my mentors, the year prior. But one of my missions, because it took me 3.5 years to get that position, has been to help other people get hired. And I feel like one of the big things, or one of the big disconnects that I realized, or that even I had as an applicant or as a candidate to be an employee of an employer, was understanding the industry, understanding what makes it tick, and what employers are looking for. So when I started these roundups, it was really for us to get a better chance to network and get to meet each other. I have so many fantastic people within my network. I wanted to share those people, introduce those people to you as well. But this roundup has turned into something so much more, where let's say you're a medical coder or you're getting into medical coding. It sometimes seems so heavy, right? Like there's so much in the code, so much in the compliance. There are other podcasts and live streams for those purposes. But this seems to be a little bit lighter, but also show a lot of you, as you may not have been privy or privileged to view what's going on the staffing side and how all of this works together. Because we have to remember, it's revenue cycle, meaning from the time the patient comes in to when they get their bill, or the insurance hopefully pays it in a timely manner. There's a lot that goes into that. It's a lot more than coding. So welcome to the Roundup, and I'd love to see you in the comments if you can. Say hi and share with us where you're from. So I see Christy. Christy, you have been an avid attendee of the Roundups. Thank you so much for attending. You as well, Yida. Thank you for coming. We have Natalia as well. Good morning. Jeanette, I have been meaning to call you. So let's do this. I'm going to call you right after this roundup today, okay? Because I know we've shared contact information. I haven't had a chance to do that, and I'm going to do it. And putting this on the roundup is going to hold me to it. So I'm going to call you right after this, okay? Hello. We have Tammy. Thank you so much. And you are in West Virginia. So probably much colder than I am in Clearwater, Florida, but that's totally fine. And also, like, we have people from all over the country. Now, if I've missed your comments, just as a little disclaimer, the streaming platform that we use is fantastic, but sometimes not all of the comments come in, or I'm not able to see them on this side. I actually have to go to the revenue cycle page on LinkedIn to view those. So I may comment on those, I may pull some questions and things, but I may not be able to bring them to the presentation that you're seeing today, just for that very reason. And Tammy says, yes, it is cold, so we'll send some warmth your way. The other day, was it last week? Yeah, last week, Thursday and Wednesday, we were in the 80s here in Florida. So I can tell you, warmer weather is coming, just not yet. So hang in there, and yeah, let's go ahead and get started. So as I mentioned, as I did in the introduction, this is more of a weekly webinar on LinkedIn Live, where employees, employers, vendors, and candidates can all network, share opportunities, and learn more about revenue cycle. And even I will go into sharing or ask a question, or give you a little bit more preface as to what I do within revenue cycle and staffing. Okay. And our agenda today is, so we're going to learn more about revenue cycle consulting, entrepreneurship, if that's for you, or what all of that entails. Because I can tell you, a lot of entrepreneurs, as when they would get started, and this is the thing, there's a big illusion or disillusion when it comes to that. A lot of folks are like, well, entrepreneurs are like made, like, Kevin O'Leary on Shark Tank, like, I never wanted to be an employee after that lady fired me from the ice cream shop. I mean, that's his experience. But I think in that traumatic experience for him, it showed him I guess you could say, the value, right, of owning your own company and being the person, or not being a person in that position, right? But there are also a lot of illusions as to everybody should be an entrepreneur, right? And everybody should do this. And what Leslie and I are going to talk to you today about is about our experience, but also probably some alternatives to entrepreneurship, because I can tell you this is not for everybody, right? Not everybody should be mortgaging their house and putting it all on the line for an idea that, even though it is true, and maybe you're working for a organization that is paying a lot or getting paid a lot to do that very thing that you're doing, it doesn't mean you doing it by yourself and you doing it on your own brand and all of those things, or you know a few people and they're going to give you all the business in the world. Those warm leads quickly dry up. I can tell you, my first year within entrepreneurship, fantastic, 6 figures, and I actually didn't work as much as when I was an employee, right? But guess what? Those leads quickly dried up. And then the real work started because I had to put in the work in the branding, right? I had to put the work in people. I had to get out there and do speaking engagements. Sometimes we're even forced to pay when we may not necessarily get anything from it, right? So there's a lot that goes into that. But we're going to try to demystify that for you, but also share some really good wins and some pros to that. But just be real with you. I mean, we've always been very candid here on the Roundup, and I think that's what a lot of people appreciate. Okay. And of course, we'll do the vendor spotlight. We'll share open jobs and opportunities. I did see that we've had some layoffs within our space. They have a ton of jobs and opportunities on that section. And remember, just as a little disclaimer as well, this is being recorded. So let's say you have to go back to work, right? You have something going on. You can always go back or jump to the sections that you feel are best for you. But in the job section today, I think we have over 10 positions that we're sharing with you that I've seen within my network that I'd love for each and every one of you to apply. We're also hiring here at Renown Talent as well. So I'll tell you all about that. And we'll go into more about the Ask Mr. B questions, candidate showcase section as well. So that is where you as a candidate, if you're currently looking for an opportunity, I'm going to go ahead right now. And in the chat, I'm going to put that format. And during that section, I'm going to go ahead and I'm putting in the comments right now. I'm going to go ahead and just share your information with the audience that might have employees and hiring managers. And the crazy thing about that is also going to be saved on LinkedIn. So if employers, recruiters, and hiring managers want to go in and view anyone that's currently looking for opportunity, they can do that as well. So the nice thing about that, you don't have to wait till the very end to do that. You can do that at any time. And I just put that format within the comments. You should see it right now. Okay, I'm giving it a like as well. All right, cool. So let's go into introducing our speaker. So Leslie is a certified healthcare compliance professional and is the owner and president of Review Healthcare, a consulting firm with over 15 years of healthcare coding, auditing, and compliance experience. She has expertise in hospital inpatient and outpatient settings, as well as physician coding education. She serves on the board of directors of Engage NC and co-chairman at Grateful Heart Church in Cary, North Carolina, and previous on the board of HFMA. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not all about AHIMA and AAPC. I love them, but there are other associations that you may want to be a part of, and these are some of the people that you're going to want to connect with. Gem, there's a gem right there for you. Take it, please, run away with it. She also has credentials including her CCS, CPC, CPMA, CPCI, as well as CRC, and she holds her bachelor's from the degree of University of Arizona. This is only like 75 or so words. There's so much more that she has done. So towards the end of our conversation, we're going to share her contact information, how you can get in touch with her organization. But I'd like to bring to the table and bring to our audience Leslie Boles. Thank you so much for coming and being a guest on the Roundup. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be a guest on the Roundup today.
And I forgot, and I meant to tell you a little bit earlier that your skin is glowing. You look fantastic. so thank you I'll say thank you for putting your face on, and thank you for me for putting my face on. I don't do a good job. My wife has to lotion, use it. But thank you for being here today.
No, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
Yes. So we're all interested and curious to know, because this is the thing, I'll get connected with people like yourself, and you are already doing you, right? You're already posting, you're already promoting your business, all of those things. But let's rewind back 15 or so years as well, right? Right around the same time. How did you get started within revenue cycle and in this coding business that we're all in right now?
Yeah. So I always tell people, It was a women of prayer because I don't think anybody goes into compliance saying, I want to be a compliance professional. No one does that. I
Mm,
actually was working as a secretary in a hospital, trying to figure out what I was going to do with my life and what was going to be next. And
mm,
I've always been really passionate about wherever I was in life. So I'm just a hard worker, and I'm always trying to find innovative ways to grow. And so it
correct.
just so happened at this time I was working in the audiology department, and the chief compliance officer of the hospital came to me with a Medicare article about coding that was going to change for audiology. And so she gave it to me, really trying to reach the audiologist, but she gave it to me and said, hey, why don't you take a look at it and see what you can see? And I was able to read it and identify that there were some significant coding changes that were coming for our department.
Mm,
She was so blown away by that because I couldn't even, I had no idea what coding was in totality,
mm-hmm,
really, at that point. Couldn't tell you. I really didn't even know what CMS stood for. I'm going to be honest.
mm-hmm,
I just was able to read the article and discern based off of, what I did every day because I just happened to put in codes, charges as
mm.
part of my duties. And because of that interaction with her, she told me, she's like, when I have an opportunity in my department, I would love for you to come. And so that's how I started my coding journey. That's how it began.
Ladies and gentlemen, I had a talk with John. I forgot his last name. Anyway, I had a talk with John on Monday, and then we were streaming it live, and we were talking about getting your foot in the door.
Mm-hmm.
And some folks are just so focused on, let's say, getting that coding position, getting that billing position, getting that management auditing, whatever it is, recruiting position, right? That is fine and fantastic. But just because it doesn't look like it's a straight path, doesn't mean that you can't get there, right?
Absolutely.
And it doesn't also mean that your purpose, your destiny is not also going to find you, because you happen to be working for the hospital. You didn't have any credentials, right?
No,
You didn't
no,
have that biller/coding resume,
no.
but you showed interest. You connected with a subject matter expert, a decision maker in the hospital, and they said, when next time we have an opportunity, we're going to hire you.
Yep. And that's what happened. I wasn't
Wow.
afraid to, and that was one of the things I will say to add to what you just said. I think it's also really important for newbies in any industry to not be afraid to speak up and network and ask questions. Because you see someone doing something that you have never experienced before doesn't mean you can't approach them, doesn't mean you can't have a conversation with them. So I
Correct.
think that was another big part of my success there.
And a really good compliment to anyone as well is to identify someone and say, you know what, I'm not at that level. I don't know what it takes, but I'm really interested in what you do. You look like you're having fun and rocking it, whatever it is. Like giving someone an honest compliment, because they don't get those very often. That person's going to be like, oh, I don't even know who this person is, but that's like kind of cool, right? They weren't, let's say, interested in, let's say, the material success or whatever that is, but they're generally interested in me and how I do what I do.
Right.
That's really the way that I would approach anyone. And I probably would even mention mentorship, because that might seem like somebody's going to get a task of responsibilities, but just letting that person know, like, wow, I'm really interested in what you do, and it looks like a lot of fun, and I read this article, and this is really interesting, and I would love to talk to you about these coding things. Like, this is awesome. What is CMS? Showing that interest that a lot of people might not have. So how was from that interaction, like, how long did it take you to actually get started in coding within, or working within her department?
Yeah, I think to be honest, I think that was probably about a year later. A
Okay.
year later. It wasn't instantaneous. And I think that's another thing that I sort of stress to people is that be patient. It will come, right? I mean, I've always taken on the mindset, like I said, I'm a hard worker. So I want to, I want to be able to show you at any level. I could be making, pizza. I'm going to be the best pizza maker out there. But I think it's important to just be okay with where you are, and it's okay to be patient. It's okay.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm coming to realize too that the stage at which we're at is also meant for divine purpose.
It
If
is.
you were meant to be at another place, that's where the universe would put you. But
Right.
you are in that particular department because you had to connect, and The audiologists didn't need to be there because they were not supposed to get that article, right?
Right.
They weren't
Right.
supposed to get those updates. You were supposed to get that.
Right. Right.
Wow, that's awesome.
Right.
So in
Yeah.
that year, were you researching within credentials, or were you talking with this person or this SME about, or having lunch with them and just learning more about the industry, or what were you doing within that year?
Well, I started just researching, right? I didn't necessarily, I'll be honest with you, I didn't necessarily dive deep into like, okay, what does a coder do?
Yes.
Right. I think in that moment, what it did, it gave me the ability to look outside of the box I was putting myself in, right? Because I think oftentimes, you know, I grew up in a household where my parents, they worked really hard, but, and I respect them for it, but we were taught not to aspire beyond what you can see, right? And so I developed this mentality of like, okay, I can only touch these things, and what that interaction and her, because I think the most important aspect about this, she saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. And that struck like a light bulb. That it just went off for me. Like, I'm holding myself back. And why am I doing it? I'm doing it because, well, this is all I've ever been exposed to. So it sort of forced me to say, okay, well, what other things could my natural talents and abilities be a good fit for within a job? And I did, you know, becoming a little impatient during that time, applied to other jobs that were completely outside of coding, because I'm like, well, I don't know when she's going to have this position available. But it's to your point about divine intervention and just waiting and being patient. When there's a bigger purpose for your life, it doesn't matter what you try to do.
Exactly.
It does not matter what you're trying to do. It's going to work out the way it's supposed to. So yeah.
Yeah, that is fantastic. That's fantastic. Oh, wow. Well, that was a really good one. That was a really good, Gem. I hope you guys and ladies picked that up. So you're working within the coding department, right? You're doing what you have to. You're learning that's a lot more than audiology or the department that you're working in. How were your first few months or first few years working as a medical coder?
Yeah, so it was tough. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I didn't want to quit almost every day. To be honest, I think the hard part about entering or having the mindset to do more, but not understanding the sacrifice and the struggle, that meaning, and not in a bad way, but in a good way, all of the work that you have to put into it was just a real eye opener for me. So I took a route of, you know, no formal coding and training. I literally am self-taught. And there was a woman in the clinical documentation department and coding department. She knows who she is if she's watching. She actually sat with me 3 times a week and just taught me how to code. And I used to come in early in the morning before my shift started. And, you know, when I look back on that at the time, I was like, man, why am I doing this? Can I even really do this? And I'm like, I don't even know where this is going to go. But all of that sacrifice ended up paying off, right? And it was these little bits of kindness and just give back and mentoring from other people that really eased that pain that I was feeling when I first started. I started to really, once I realized, because another really bad part about who I was back then was I was very prideful. I didn't want to ask for help, right? I think that is a character trait that a lot of us possess, and we go through life and we never stop and fix it. Well, once I started to see like, oh no, Leslie, you need a mentor. Real bad. You need a mentor. I started reaching out to different ones and different people. And then I began on this journey of identifying people who were where I wanted to be or where I envisioned myself.
That's it.
In coding at the time. And that is what really took me to new heights. It really did.
That's why I tell people all of the time. So you want to be a medical coder, immediately go to LinkedIn and connect with all of the medical coders within your local network, then go regional, and then go to the next level. So what's after coding? Let's say it's auditing or management. Connect with all of these people. Before you know it, you're going to have a network of more of people that you may not necessarily formally have met, but people that you can strive to be, and you're going to see the conferences that they're attending, the articles that they're publishing, what's important to them. So when you go to the job interview, your network is going to be very different. You're commenting, you're sharing, you're participating within that social networking that we do on LinkedIn, and
Yep.
you can ask for something and they're going to know you, or let's say you got on a live or something like this, they're going to know your voice. And
Right.
I've met so many people and they said, you know, Bertrand, I feel like I've known you for so long, but we never formally spoke, you
Yeah.
know? And that's
Exactly.
a good thing because it's so much of an icebreaker. So you did exactly what 15 or so years ago, you did exactly what I tell people to do every single day, and
Hmm.
what people should do a lot more of. Because
Yep.
the world also tells us like, hey, don't friend anybody or request anybody that you don't know.
Oh no.
In a professional working sense and in a mentorship sense, that's not the case. You need to get connected with all of these people. You know,
Yep.
Leslie and I were both married, two separate people. We got to make that official, two separate people. But you know what? My spouse was somebody that I didn't know
Yep.
until I met her. You know,
Yep.
so it's like, are you going to cut off those possible connections or people that you're going to possibly work with or places that you're going to work with and learn so much and maybe
Yep.
one day even create your whole business out of because you
Yep.
didn't want to accept a connection request?
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
know. Like I just
No, I was going to say you're spot on. I mean, I think one of the things that I tell people all the time too, that I just did naturally in that moment, I
mhm,
wouldn't use the word desperation at that time, but it really was what I was passionate and hungry about. And I feel like
mhm,
today, one of the reasons why people struggle with finding the right way to go about when it comes to identifying what their purpose is, which translates to living an abundant life, is because they have not found what they're passionate or hungry about. They're
about
just looking at what everybody's doing and saying, oh, I can do that. No, that's not how that works. Because the person who is doing that effortlessly and flawlessly and going through trials and tribulations, they have a burning desire, a hunger, to keep going. Whereas you are just emulating, right? You're just copying.
exactly.
And so I think it's really important in any field. I don't care what you're doing. You can
That's
be,
true.
I don't care. You have to have a desire and a purpose behind it. Otherwise, it won't work.
Exactly, exactly. And you know, it's so funny because I'm watching some of the F1 series on Netflix,
Hmm.
and you know there are a lot of these pro drivers, and they can do everything. They have all the money in the world, right? These guys make a lot of money.
Hmm.
And there's this one gentleman, and he works for I'm in the first season. He works for this team. They don't have a lot of money and stuff, but it had a part that they almost had like a little mini cockpit. It was just steel, really, right? Didn't have pedals or anything, but he's in this little mini cockpit and he's practicing every turn, brake, and gear within that. And they're showing in his car exactly the turns and stuff. And
Hmm.
it's like the one thing that made that team really good and successful is that with ever the resources that they had, sometimes their imagination, that's what they practice with.
Yeah.
Did they have the similar simulators and did they have their car and all that stuff? Yeah, but what are you going to do in the interim, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to prepare yourself? Because just like you experienced and as I experienced, recruiting was a lot harder than I thought, even though I was waiting on the sidelines for 3.5 years. Coding might be a lot harder than you're thinking, even though yes, you haven't worked or you got your credential a year or so ago.
Hmm.
So really the only ones that things in this life are made for are the ones that are willing to do whatever it takes. And sometimes it may not be you, it may not be the job, it may not be your resume. Sometimes it may just be a little bit of patience. Leslie, you're preaching today. I'm gonna say it. Amen. Goodness. So fast forward, right? You're working and you shared with me a little bit earlier, but share with us how you got to a place of working for some firms that were using you maybe as a consultant before
Mhm.
you went off to start your own or had the idea or even had the imagination to start your own agency, own business.
Yeah, so two things, right? I'll say the first thing, one of the things that I came to realize is that, there was an opportunity for me to do more with my skill sets beyond.
Hmm.
And, in working there, I started to see some of like what one would pay for services, and what
Hmm.
one could charge for services if I was doing it on a consulting aspect. And I said, hey, I mean, I can do that, right? I definitely can do that. I have the skill sets, I have it, and I want to be able to make that type of money. Why can't I do that? That was one. I'll
Correct.
just start with that. But the second thing, you know, I always knew that I was destined for greater. I couldn't put my finger on it. I couldn't describe, like, I couldn't tell you when it was going to happen. I couldn't even tell you how I was going to get there. But
Correct.
I started to evaluate my perspective on that, right? And so I think oftentimes a lot of us, we sit on jobs and we get upset with the job because the job doesn't create the opportunities that we're dreaming about, right?
Hmm.
And so I said to myself, am I going to sit here and be upset because they don't have a job for a boss or,
Hmm.
or to be your own entrepreneur or to, no, I can't be upset with them. I have to really
Correct.
evaluate and go after what I want. And I think one of the biggest things that I realized in that moment is that I cannot sit here and say, well, they're holding me back. There's a glass,
Mm.
there's these barriers in the way, because the way in which jobs are designed, they're designed for the point of limitation, scope. It's designed that way for a purpose. And so once you reach a place of no return where you think, well, this job no longer serves me, but yet you sit there and still work there, that's on you. That's not on the job. And that's what I wanted
Hmm.
to I wanted to take accountability for my own dreams in my own life. And I said
Wow.
to myself, if I have these big dreams, if I have this big vision for my life, why am I still
Yes.
sitting? Why am I still sitting here? And
Correct.
I'm gonna to be very honest, if it wasn't for me working at that firm and experiencing what I've experienced, I would have never had the nerve or the guts to do it. Right. So each
Mm.
served a purpose. But when I hit a ceiling, so I thought, I decided to take accountability for myself and make a
There you
move for
go.
my life versus holding them hostage.
Yeah, because also for any organization, even our own organizations, right? Organization is, I look at it almost like as an amoeba, like a living organism. And that living organism is only going to be able to do so much with the capacity or the ability. For example, an amoeba can only eat something as a certain size. But if you're telling the amoeba to eat a deer, well, that's going to take like forever and a day. So the nice thing about the world that we live in today is that you can move and you don't have to necessarily be married to your jobs. We don't have pensions. We don't have lifetime employment.
Yep.
Even I think Japan is even doing away with that. The gentleman that worked at, or ladies that worked at Coca-Cola for 30 years and retired with a pension and a gold watch, those days have sunset, and that's fine. But also, I think you brought up a really great point. Don't put it on the employer, your boss, for your dreams and aspirations.
Yep.
If you've hit a certain point and you've done the best you can, and they will try, and every organization will try. Hey, we're gonna have you head up this team and do this and go on this project and go to these conferences. But always be networking, always keep your resume fresh, and always be open to, I would say, collaborating in the future with other organizations, because those same organizations are likely going to be the next place. Like I remember when I had my first stellar year, a lot of companies were reaching out to me. But what if I was just like the meanest, like
No.
biggest jerk in the like, don't ever ding me again. Like, no, I really appreciate it, but thank you. I'm not really looking at this time. Then go back, like save those emails or whatever, those messages. Then go back. Hey, what's going on? Because those might be the people, and especially how you treat people is how you're going to get those opportunities. The last corporation that I worked for, I didn't apply. Their sales executive went in there and was like, hey, like I'm going to do everything. And I have the best recruiter. He didn't even tell me about it. And
Yep.
then he used me, or he used my name, and they're like, okay, cool. We've heard
Yep.
about this guy before, and we had a conversation. Funny thing, he didn't go work for the company, but I went to work for the company
Yep. Yep.
because they made
Yep.
me an offer that I couldn't refuse. But it's how I treated people within my organization that they were, representing me, that I'd even ask for myself.
Yeah.
So you came to a place that you were like, it's definitely time for me to take my own responsibility, pick up my boots, and start my own. How were those? You're 3 years now, but how was that first year after you started your own agency? What challenges did you face?
So, man, how much time do we have? No, I'm just kidding. It was tough, right? Because we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I'll say it again. I think the biggest misconception about entrepreneurship is that you have to be degreed, out the wazoo. You have to have all the certifications. You have to be able to name things off the top of your head. it's not that. Actually, has nothing to do with that. It has to do with mindset. And I said, I think the
Mm.
hardest challenge for me was transitioning from employee to employer. And the reason why that's so hard is because we've never had to do it. If you're working for someone else, there's never a time where you ever have to take full responsibility of everything. And what I realized what was and is the hardest part for entrepreneurs today is mindset. No one
Mm.
ever prepares your mind for what
Nope.
you have to achieve
Nope.
when it comes to taking on that responsibility. We talk about it, right? We can say it. I mean, if you scroll down any Instagram, TikTok, everybody's talking about being an entrepreneur. Everybody is talking about, starting their own business. But some of us need to go back to work and stay at our jobs, right? Because
That's true.
the mindset that you have to develop sometimes is counterintuitive, and sometimes you can't manage that. And the reason why I can speak to it in this manner is because this is something I had to walk myself through, right? Like
Hmm.
Leslie, you are getting frustrated with you got to take a step back. I remember my partner actually saying that to me. She said it to me like, we've got to learn this is new for us, we've never done this.
Correct.
So we have to be students here. We have to be willing to, take remove all ego, remove your pride. It doesn't matter. I don't care how many conferences you've spoke at. I don't care how many people you know. I don't
Hmm.
care how much money you've made. When it comes to relying solely on you, as an entrepreneur, it takes work. It does. And it takes a level of vulnerability that I've never
Mm.
had to establish with myself. And I just think, period, I've never had that level of vulnerability. So that was a tough challenge for me. And I really had to go through that. I couldn't go around it. I couldn't
You had to
go over
grow through it.
through it
You had to
in
grow
order
through
to
it.
really understand the importance of it. So,
Yeah. It's almost like I don't know if you've seen or anyone has seen, like, they have this ad for this thing called Hero Games on Facebook. Is
yep.
where the guy or the gentleman that's a soldier, he's like at the top level with the wife and everything, and then he gets like knocked down to the bottom. That's what entrepreneurship does. You're at the top of your field. That's where you're thinking about starting your own staffing, agency compliance, and doing all these amazing things. But then you are going from that to now what I did, just a recruiting consultant, no clients, because I knew if my job found out, they're going to fire me on the spot. So no clients, no revenue, no money. I had a lot of connections, but it's so funny. Like, people were so nice to me until I started my own agency.
Oh,
like when I was the recruiting director at this company. Hey, what's up? Hey, Bertram, nice to see you. So when I started my own company, people like ran away from me. I'm like,
oh yeah.
what? Like what? Like am I do I have the plague? What's going on? And I realized now it's at this time that they truly have no alliance to me. And even
No.
though I had alliance to them, or if like I even got called in and I was doing some consulting for a future client of mine, like I put out a lot of value and I was getting nothing in return. And I'm like, whoa, this is crazy.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because, when you're working for an organization, even if it's 10 people, 100 people, there are that many more hours going into that product and service as to what they're offering compared to what you're offering.
Right.
And it's the biggest, wake up call and self actualization. And you have to scale that back. You got to find the right partnerships, and you just got to find your niche and how you can do it. A
Yep.
lot of other companies have scaled staffing companies by hiring salespeople. I was telling Leslie before the call, that has not been our success. We tried it. It fell flat on its face twice. And you know what? That's okay. But we are still growing, and you just have to grow through it. You just have to
Yep.
have the patience. You just have to have the finances. You just have to have the emotional support. You got to have your faith and your spirituality. You got to have if you have a household with children and spouse, everybody has to understand what you guys are going through. So
Yep.
I share a lot of what we're going through with my wife, and she kind of understands it. And it's been hard, but I think throughout our relationship, that's actually what's going to make us stronger. Because I remember it was funny, like, first started dating her, and 3 months later, I got laid off.
Mm.
So my romantic takeouts were getting some sushi from Publix and then going to the local park because that's all
Yeah.
I could afford. And we
Right.
still talk about that today, even though we can go to a nicer restaurant today. So,
Yeah.
it was a lot, and no one prepares you for it. So,
No, I'm so glad you brought up that about your family, because I literally just told someone this the other day. we always ask ourselves if we're ready for entrepreneurship, but you never ask if your loved ones are, because
Oh,
that is a huge, huge responsibility and that they have to take on as well. And not just your
correct,
spouse, but your children too. Right. And
correct.
so I think understanding that entrepreneurship impacts every aspect of your life,
Life.
every
Mhm.
aspect of your life. And can you manage that feasibly? Are you
Correct.
ready for that? Can you have those conversations with your spouse and your children before you even do it? Because it's very necessary, and continuously throughout. It's not a vehicle for making money. It really is a life changer. So it
Yeah.
requires more thought.
Correct, correct. I think it's more about becoming that individual than the money, because it's funny, there have been so many entrepreneurs that would have said, "Hey, you know what? Last 10 years as an employee, this is probably what I was going to make, and I have made all of these years." And then they're like, "I started my business." So now it's up, but it's like they went from, like, let's say it was 100,000 or 200,000. They went to like zero, and it
Yep.
almost averaged out, right? So
Mhm.
it's like, if I just stay working my company, I probably would have still made this amount of money, right?
Yep.
But then I started my company, it went down, but now it's average. But the difference now is the person that person has become,
Yep. Yep.
and what they're able to do and all of these things. Because you also figure it out after a while, also finding the right people, mentors, and connections to help you with that. So
Yep.
we were talking, and I think a lot of people out there will also know that maybe entrepreneurship is not for them. What about some other possible options for them if they're thinking about doing something at a higher level than just being an employee that you've been exposed to?
Yeah. So, I mean, the great part about coding and working in revenue cycle and revenue integrity is that it is constantly changing and there's so many opportunities. I started in auditing before I was
Okay.
even in just coding itself. Um, Auditing is a huge, huge, huge opportunity for coders. It is, to me, it's not going anywhere. I think it's very important to start thinking about more avenues for coding, especially as it relates to production coding, because
Correct.
there's a lot of AI being rolled out. And I keep telling people, you have to start researching, where is AI going, right? Where is it really going in my field? Like, where am I going to be in 10 years? And one of the things that I have noticed with AI when it comes to coding is if the code or the service that you're coding for is a redundant, automated, repetitive, doesn't require any additional critical thinking, there's a possibility that that may be phased out. And I'm using that as a strong possibility because it's coming, it's here, right? So
It's
it
here.
requires coders to become really innovative, and to become really creative in how they think about how they want to expand their skills. There
Hmm.
is a bunch of opportunity related to risk adjustment, right? Risk adjustment and the whole move from fee for service to pay for performance. Now, fee for service to pay for performance requires the coder now to gather more information, to use
Hmm.
more of their critical thinking skills for those risk adjustment, the HCCs, which is why everyone's talking about it. And I think my prediction, this is just Leslie Bowles' prediction, is going to take a very long time for AI to even be able to learn in that manner, especially when we talk about the complexity of patients. And so I
Correct.
think it's more important for coders to start looking at, how am I going to be utilized in the wake of technology? Like, where do I need to
Mm.
stretch myself? Where do I need to enhance certain skills? So I have been encouraging a lot of coders, hey, get comfortable with education. Education is big, right?
Correct.
It used to be a time where coders could just be coders and you could just sit behind a desk and code. That's no longer the case.
Nope.
A lot of organizations want you to be able to code, audit, and educate. And I think it's really important to work on those three skill sets, because those individuals that do that are going to have the most leverage as technology advances when it comes to coding. The ability to be able to translate to a physician or a practitioner, rules and regulations, coding guidelines are going to be a necessity, right? So you don't want
Yes.
to count yourself out because, oh, I'm afraid of public speaking, or I'm afraid to speak to a doctor. I think those are the people that are going to lose out if you don't start enhancing those skills now.
Wow. Leslie, oh my goodness. Oh my god, I have to chop that one up. I'm gonna chop that one up for sure
Sure.
and share it because wow. And we didn't even talk about that. That was not even planned.
No.
Because that's the thing. There are a lot of coders right now, and I'm sure they don't even realize it, right? How fast it's changing. And I can tell you, I've had some conversations with some AI companies at the very low level.
Mhm.
Coding is already automated.
Mhm.
The machine downloads a whole bunch of charts. It takes forever in a day, very expensive implementation,
Mhm.
but it's going through and is being audited by coders on the back end. That's
Mhm.
already happening. But as you said, education, right? Training and compliance,
Mhm.
auditing. Like if folks are able to really like get a good grasp, extra credentials on those things, that it
Mhm.
could help them with additional job security in the future. Ladies and gentlemen, are you hearing this? Because I'm not hearing this from anybody else. And I hear it in pockets. I'm hearing from the compliance people like Betty. Betty signed on a little bit earlier.
Sure.
I'm hearing from those people like compliance is compliance and compliance. You're hearing it from me because I can see it. We're dealing with a client right now. They had a staffing firm, horrible. They didn't have any compliance, not a lot of auditing, bad
Mhm.
invoicing. It was like everything's horrible, right? So we're
Mhm.
doing it a little bit differently. But then you're also talking about the education. I'd
Yep.
even go a step further as to you also, and we also need to be the people that are open to get educated, right?
True.
As you
Yeah.
said, put your pride to the side, put the ego to the side. If an employer is coming to you or your employer is coming to you with things that you may have not done correctly and you're being audited and you're on a performance plan or whatever the case may be, that's fantastic because you know
Yep.
what? On the
Yep.
consulting side, they just let you go. They don't even bother. But
Yep.
if you're getting an opportunity to improve and you can see where you may have some weaknesses on, and also maybe that's a good opportunity to introduce yourself to that auditor and find out what they do and do the networking right there and find your next possible mentor because you want to be that person in the future. That's
Sure.
fantastic.
Mhm.
Coding is more pushing towards auditing coding rather than just doing the manual production based coding. And that's fine. But if you can get there sooner, that's going
Why
to
not?
ensure a lot of job security for a lot of people.
Mhm.
Um, Another opportunity within entrepreneurship or those folks looking to do something a little bit different is try to be a really good number two, ladies and gentlemen. I
Yeah.
think every person, Leslie, myself, we need really good number twos. We need somebody that may have the same, if not better, skill set as ourselves that can complement what we're doing because as that founder, co-founder, partner within the organization, you can't spend all your time usually on your subject matter expertise. That's also a big wake-up call within coding, right? Or within entrepreneurship. Let's say you have your own plumbing business, you're likely not going to be the plumber because your reputation has brought you a lot of business. So what do you have to do? You have to hire plumbers and make sure they're doing it correctly, but they're out doing the job. So
Yeah.
just trying to find yourself where you can be a really good number two. That can also help you not be the face of the company, be on webinars or be on lives like this. Like you don't have to do that stuff, right?
Right.
But you can probably get paid really handsomely for what you're doing, but also just love what you're doing and be along for the journey because it's really about a journey and growing into who we can be. Wow, we're at the 43rd minute right now.
Oh,
You've been
wow.
fantastic. How do you and review healthcare serve and help your clients, Leslie?
Yeah, we serve in various ways. I mean, we offer regulatory compliance solutions to our clients. We offer coding and billing compliance services. We also, I'm super proud of our physician advisory team. We're doing medical necessity reviews. We've got inpatient coders. We're doing DRG validation reviews. We're doing compliance services. So we really consider when it comes to compliance, regulatory, revenue integrity, and rev cycle, we consider ourselves like a full service firm. And so on the screen,
Mhm.
you'll see how you can contact us. The great part about our firm, not tooting our horn, but I'll toot anyway.
To
We
it.
hire folks who have actual experience in the field, in these entities, these organizations who actually worked in a hospital, who's actually worked in a doctor's office, who actually worked in these places. I think that's really important for any
Mhm.
consulting firm, not just mine. If the consultant
Correct.
that you're working with does not have practical experience, they do not need to be with you, right? Because
Correct.
that means they can't really guide you. It's just informative, and you can find that information yourself. So you want someone who's going to give you sustainable solutions, and that's what we pride ourselves on doing. So, yeah,
Fantastic.
really excited about it.
Well, Leslie, we really appreciate you being on the roundup. We appreciate everything that you're doing. As I said, you're always coming with your face, being present, and just being on these lives with
Thank
us
you.
today. So here is reviews information. Feel free to reach out and connect with Leslie. Just let her know that, hey, Leslie, thank you for being on the roundup with Bertram. Bertram was so, but you are fantastic and amazing. She shared
No,
so
you
many
were great.
gems, and I'm telling you, that snapshot of those 3 or so skills that folks should develop over the next few years so they're not, let's say, ousted by AI. I haven't heard that before. That is fantastic. You kept that to yourself until we brought you on here. I know you did. But we appreciate you, and probably towards the end of this year, I'd love to have you back,
Sure.
just as a part two, for
Yeah.
us to continue the conversation. And I want to go to the comments really quick before you go, if you don't mind.
Yeah, no, not a problem.
So I saw one, and remember, not all the comments come through. So if I'm not able to get yours, please forgive me. So Natalia mentioned that she recently joined HFMA and she's getting her CRC. I saw that earlier. An amazing organization, a lot of great info, a lot of resources, a lot of
Yeah.
C-suite people, decision makers are part of HFMA. And it's funny, AHIMA and AAPC folks used to be the decision makers. Now it's gone to a higher level. So
It
that is
does.
really
Yeah.
growing within our space. I'm not saying if you go to our conference, you're going to be able to connect with a lot of people, but there's so many decision makers there. And those might be the people at your facility that you may want to start connecting with, because they know revenue cycle, they know coding, they know how important your department is. She also mentioned that mentoring is very important.
Yep.
Tammy said she had a really good conversation. Jeanette gave us an amen as well. Yeda said, preach, Leslie, because you were preaching a little bit earlier. Betty with the hey, y'all, love you. Betty, thank you so much. And this was more about with us finding new opportunities. And if it doesn't serve you anymore, find what does. Feel free to go on to the next opportunity. I would encourage anybody to be cautious, right? You don't just want to jump because Bertram offered you a job. But
No.
if you find that it might be the next great fit for you for the next 5 years and where you can grow, as soon as you're hired, or even before you're hired, you should have a conversation with a hiring manager what you're looking to do in those 5 years. I actually take that conversation very serious. Like, hey, you're coming on board as a coder, fantastic. What about we get you to be auditor or develop you partially into this, or your skill set into this? So that needs to be a formal conversation that you have before and hired on to do. Tammy also said that she loves this. Betty mentioned hardest thing to do is to move on, right? So definitely it's hard. I remember, like, when I left my last job, I didn't want to let go of my computer. It was the last physical thing, and really the only thing that I had, because I worked remotely for the company for over 3 years. But once that I had to let that go, it was real entrepreneurship. Like, I had to wake up. So
it prepares you too for the art of rejection.
Christy said, code, audit, and educate. She likes that, and she'll keep it in mind. And Christy's more on an entry level, right? She's on the lower side, so she's going into our industry with that. So that is fantastic. And once again, Tammy said that she enjoyed this. Deepika said that she can totally relate to what you said about the universe will reward you with patience. She's excited to share. She's recently accepted a coding position. Oh, there you go. Good. Our next roundup hire. And she's been interviewing for many months. I remember I even had a chance to review your information and connect with you on LinkedIn. And fantastic. So we appreciate you. We applaud you. Congratulations. So Leslie, I'm going to let you go. Feel free to stay on if you want, or if you want to connect a little bit afterwards later in the week, that's absolutely fine. I know you're a very busy person, but thank you for being on the roundup, okay?
For sure. And I'll touch base with you later this week. Give me a call for sure.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Leslie. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Wow. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. You heard it here first. What are the 3 or so things that each of us should focus on? For employers, how should you possibly be retooling? Because I remember during ICD-10, the big thing was education. And because of the new code sets, alphanumeric and all of that stuff, right? A lot of people were more open to education, right? The trainer certifications and all of those things. But what if the next big transition isn't ICD 11 or 12 or that? What if it is the skills that we need to work in an environment within revenue cycle and coding with AI? AI is here. It's not going anywhere. It's going to get more impactful. But even what Leslie said as to the skill set and the being comfortable to talk to doctors and physicians, and I've talked to them. I know some of them cannot be the nicest people, especially when you are encroaching on their day or disturbing them as they may make you feel. But guess what? If you don't do your job as a coder, even in, I would say, patient registration, if you don't get the right information, the right insurance, guess what? The doctor's not getting paid because the hospital's not getting paid from the payers. So it's so important, everything that you do, but just being very comfortable. And if you can get this from very low on, in my very like enrollment coordinating position before I was a recruiter, I talked to doctors all day. Some of them were very short, but once they understood what I needed, it came to a point where I didn't need to call them for the documents that I needed them to get signed for them to be enrolled with the payers, because they knew if I don't sign it, Burson's going to call me every 3 days, and he calls twice a week. So, you know, but just getting comfortable and having those conversations, realizing that, yeah, they're a doctor, they have an MD, whatever, they're a person just like you. They sit on the toilet just like you. So it doesn't make them ever more important than what you're doing. But today was a fantastic episode, and we don't script a lot of things that happen on the roundup. And I think that's a magic in it, because I don't know what's coming and the person doesn't know what's coming. It's not scripted, and that's where all the magic comes out. So really appreciate you. And we have a few more slides, so hang in there. I have a ton of jobs to share with you, so please don't go just yet. Okay, don't go just yet. As we have been doing, we've been promoting the qualified, because I love everything that they're doing. If you need help getting additional CEs, or if you're looking to get your credentials, they even have courses for HFMA credentials. I believe HIM credentials as well. Please check with them to double check. I have to make this smaller. You can't see the email. Reach out to, the qualified at getcertified@thequalified.com. This discount code is a promotion straight to you. We don't get any kickback from it, so straight savings to you to help you guys and ladies get those credentials or get those courses that you need to make sure when you go take the test that you pass it. A lot of their customers failed the credentialing exam and then had to go to them just to test again to pass their credentialing exam. So they are fantastic, everything they do. You need your CCS, check them out. They can definitely help you out. Okay. All right. So these are the open jobs and opportunities. We have a lot to cover. So I'm going to go through these quickly, but feel free to come back and rewatch this. Okay. If you have to. So I shared these last week, but I'm going to share them again. So there's a record management specialist position. This is for a facility, Parish Medical Center. Reach out to Jackie Stevens, RHIA. Feel free to connect with her. Kimberly had one for a coding associate. This was more of a lower level position. It might already be closed, but you know what? I don't know. But one thing I do know, if an employer posts something, they're likely going to post similar positions in the future. So being connected with these people, even if these positions have already gone, is a great help to you. The next positions that we have with Janessa. She was hiring for somebody within healthcare compliance and auditing. So if you have this background, feel free to connect with Janessa Hackett. We also have Daniel Burrow, CPC. He's looking for a coding specialist level 1 full-time remote position, must reside in Florida, Georgia, and Tennessee. Connect with these individuals. Tell them the roundup sent you. And if these positions are still available, please apply to them. And by now, you should know how to go to somebody's page on LinkedIn, scroll down on that person's profile and find the recent posts, or click on where they have all posting activities of this person and find these job postings if you have to. Okay. These are some new ones. We have Jimmy. He's looking for somebody experienced within risk management. I posted this position, or I wanted to share this position because I know there are quite a few people that have been laid off within the risk management and HCC area. So if this might be a good position for you, reach out to Jimmy. We have Janet. She's also looking for, this is with a local facility to myself at Tapper General Hospital, organizational development training consultant. So if you have this experience, feel free to reach out to Janet and apply. We have Jane Marie. So everyone, I think a lot of folks may know about Asvi's Health. They usually have a lot of very high level positions as fraud investigator and all these positions. She recently posted a medical coder position. Feel free to reach out and apply. Myra Phillips mentions that Joyce Kilgore is hiring for a health information coder or abstractor on the inpatient side at Queens Health Systems. So that is a opportunity for you to apply and reach out to them. All right. Shannon is also seeking a coder level 2 or team lead full-time remote with Children's of Wisconsin. I'm not too sure of the locality. That's one of the things. If they're not able to hire within your state, or you may want to check if they can hire within your state. If not, I apologize, but it's better than not having that opportunity. Okay. And I think it's Shireen Kashai. Kashi, I'm not too sure. CCS, they're looking for a Profi coding specialist. Okay, at Renown Talent, I didn't get a chance to put it here, but we are actually looking for an outpatient same-day surgery coder on the hospital side. We have a acute care hospital in Alabama. We can have you do some great work for us. For this is full-time remote. We'll supply you a computer, an opportunity to train and grow with us, and also mentor someone behind you or at a lower level. So a great paying position with great benefits, medical insurance for yourself covered by the company. So if you're an outpatient same-day surgery coder on the facility side open to new opportunities, please reach out to myself, Bertram, and I'd love to talk with you. Or if you happen to know somebody, feel free to refer them over to us. Okay, fantastic. So let's get back into this. So the Ask Mr. B section real quick. There are two sides of recruitment, and I don't think a lot of people understand this. There's the employee focus or the employer focus. For a lot of my years, I've been employer focused, meaning I don't tend to work with a candidate that says, hey, Bertram, I'm a medical coder and I'm looking for a job opportunity. Help me. I'm usually able to work with the jobs and opportunities that our clients have. So if my client is hiring for Profi, I can help them or help you also with a Profi position. But if they're only having us help them with, let's say, inpatient coding positions, I can't, even if an inpatient coder reaches out to me, I can't get them placed at a position. I can market them. I can try to get them placed, but the contracting language and the time it's going to take for us to get a contract in place, even from the day one that I post that position, that inpatient coder is already going to be gone. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to reverse engineer it. We're able to, we're open to like helping everyone, but a lot of people send me their resume or send their recruiter resume and say, hey, Bertram, I'd love for you to help me out, but I can't because I may not have an opportunity. So most employers will have open job opportunities on their website. For us, we have open jobs. We also have evergreen jobs. These evergreen jobs, we call them, are jobs we know we usually need somebody, for example, with 3 years of experience. So we'll post that on there. But at the bottom, it's going to say this is for a future job opening. But when we have job openings within that skill set, what do? We go to the people that have applied to that evergreen job and we shoot it out that, hey, guess what? We are open. We are hiring for an outpatient same-day surgery coder. If you have these skill sets, please let us know. So please understand the difference and feel free to reach out. When you reach out to a recruiter, ask them, do you place people like myself at only your organization or at other organizations, or do you help us find jobs and opportunities? That is the best thing that you can find out, because I'm getting a lot of people, hey, Bertram, help me out. I'd love to have a phone call. I'd love to have phone calls too, but if I had phone calls with everybody that sent me their resume, I would not be here because I would be on the phone. It's too much coming at once. So we love to help and assist everyone. We just can't do that, especially at our capacity, at least right now. Maybe in the future, right? These roundups are just getting more popular. We're getting more exposure. We're getting more speaking engagements and opportunities. It just might not be feasible, but we will be courteous. We will try our best to help you. And that's one of the reasons why I started the roundup, because I wanted to share job opportunities outside of whatever we're doing too. So if somebody's available, they're not waiting on me to review the resume or to call them, that they can apply and they can get hired. Okay, so congratulations for those people that have attended the roundups. Maybe it inspired them, maybe it gave them some knowledge, and maybe it provided them to be better within the interviews that they're having. But we're seeing a lot of the regular attendees of the roundup that were not employed getting hired. And I think the roundup is helping a lot. Right now, we're only at 4 or 5 hires. I know we probably have had double that for regular attendees, but that's okay. We're just going to keep on going until we get to 100, and maybe then push it up to 500, 1,000. I don't know, but it's going great so far. So just understand the two sides of recruitment, usually employee or employer focus. All right. So the talent showcase on my side, remember, not all of these comments come in. I did not happen to see anybody that shared that they're open for an opportunity or their contact information for that. So that's okay. I just want to showcase that our next roundup is next week, Wednesday, February 7th at 12 Eastern. And we're going to have John, I believe it is a Piakowski. He'll let me know by then the exact I just lost the train of thought. He's going to help us understand the male roles within revenue cycle, how he's able to stand out being, a male and a man in an industry I'll not say dominated, but that has majority women. Is John the only person? No, absolutely not. I'm here. There are tons of others that have credentials and such. But he's definitely going to help us understand the difference in the opportunities there, how he got involved and started within Revenue Cycle. And that's fantastic. Stephanie commented on here because of us. She was able to get her resume down to 1 page, and that's also very helpful. If you're applying to jobs and opportunities right now and your resume is more than 2 pages, you may want to edit or chop some stuff out of there. I think it was last week, Sonia shared with us that once she actually got her resume down to 1 page and it was just very clean, that is the resume that helped her to get hired. So remember, quality over quantity, and quality and production is really, and accuracy is really what coding in our industry is really all about. So I love and appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate Leslie for being here. Looking forward to speaking with John next week, Wednesday. And don't forget the roundup when you get those wins, ladies and gentlemen, right? You get hired, you get the job, fantastic. Just share with us if we were able to provide any value whatsoever. I know you may have got a job at a place that we didn't even mention. That's absolutely fine. But just share with us and help us understand. You winning inspires others to keep on going. So as I say each and every week, thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you next week. Be renowned or be forgotten, and we'll see you later. Bye-bye.